Jed, good morning. How are you?
Good. How you guys doing?
Doing all right.
Yeah, we're doing okay. Very curious. Does this series seem bigger than it did before? What's your take on 5 against a Brewers team that has just been ridiculously winning? It's just crazy what they've done.
Yeah, I mean, I think this series, you kind of always looked at the calendar, and you got this is the final series against these guys this year, and it's 5 games, and it's at Wrigley. So I think at all times you kind of looked at this as a big series. You knew it was going to be a big series. Obviously, the way they've been playing is nothing short of incredible. So yeah, it's always been a big series, and I think maybe even has a little added weight to it given how they've been playing. And it should be a good 5 games here the next 4 days.
Jed, Cubs have struggled since the since the trade deadline, actually, the first of the month. And I just wonder, when you look back at that time, outside perception has been that maybe there was a psychological dip, a deflation in the clubhouse because there wasn't more help on the way. And the moves that we had talked about for weeks and months didn't happen. Do you buy into that at all? Did you sense any maybe decline psychologically or in terms of morale after the deadline passed?
Oh, I don't think so at all. I think that the biggest change how we've been playing has been on the offensive side, and the offense was really never something we talked about trading for that much. Honestly, was we felt like this is we have one of the best position playing groups in baseball from an offense defense standpoint, and ultimately this is a dip, and I think overall for the season we've had a really good offense and defense, but this last, I don't know, whether 30, 40 games, I think we've struggled, and I think that's sort of a natural thing at some point in the season. And I would say, like, you never know when a hot streak's gonna end. You never know when a cold streak's gonna start, when a hot streak's gonna end. You don't know that. And my attitude's been really every day coming in, and I know that we're gonna start hitting. I know that things will pick up, and just hopefully that day is today. It's been a while since we really clicked on all cylinders offensively, and it's going to happen, and hopefully we can just get back on track and start hitting. And really, the pitching has kind of gotten us through this stretch. We've thrown really well, and hopefully we can keep doing that.
I'm curious. There's been so much speculation about Kyle Tucker, about whether he's injured, about why his bat speed has slowed down, about whether he's exhausted. It's been a really hot, humid summer. And he was playing in a dome. What is your take on the issues that Kyle Tucker has suffered through?
I mean, everything is sort of speculative. You never know. You never know which whether it's a combination of everything, whether it's one thing. I do think that he hurt his finger sliding. I don't remember exactly what day it was, but towards the end of May, early June, and I think when he did that, I think that he had this hurt finger. I think he probably changed the mechanics a little bit as he was fighting through it, and I think that probably is a big part of it. I mean, he is a little bit different mechanically than he was at the beginning of the year, and that's what he's working hard to get back to. So who knows? I mean, I think clearly he's struggling. You can see it in his face and his body language how much it's bothering him that he's struggling. He's such a natural hitter. For a guy like that to go through an extended stretch like this I'm sure it's one of the first times in his life he's probably gone through this, and it's hard, and obviously it's a big year for him, and he wants to help the team. So I see a guy that, he's sort of exasperated right now. I understand it, and I know he'll get through it. He's too great a player not to, but certainly it's been hard to watch him struggle because I know how much he wants to be hitting and be helping the team. Talking
with Cubs team president Jed Hoyer, whose proud affiliation with Lurie Children's Hospital is part of his appearance today. So, Jed, help Cub fans understand something about Owen Casey. He was obviously and understandably valued enough at the deadline to keep from being involved in any big deals. And so when he's called up, finally, he gets a start in Toronto, but against 3 straight right-handers over the weekend, he's not in the lineup. So is there a difference of opinion in terms of how good or ready Casey is for this challenge between you and maybe Craig Counsell?
No, not at all. I mean, we talked about this, when we brought him up. I mean, I think that, the way our team is set up, if we're going to, play him, it's going to be at the expense really of Isaiah or Kyle or Ian. That's kind of the way it would work. And, those guys been doing this a long time, and, they're a big part of our offense. And so, listen, Owen's going to play. If he's not playing at some point, then we'll have to, to make sure he's getting reps in the minors, because ultimately, I think he's very close to major league ready. But I think as we've seen with Pete, as we've seen with Matt Shaw, I think that no matter how good you are in the minors, how good you are as a prospect, the early reps can be challenging, and we want to make sure that he's getting reps and playing. So I think that he's going to get at bats, he's going to get be in the lineup at times, but the point of calling him up was never to bench one of our veteran guys, and that's we've been true to that.
Jed, I'm curious about the trade deadline itself. It seemed like you were working to get a starting pitcher for a very long time, basically since Steele went out. And I'm just wondering, given the fact that nobody really seemed to move, I mean, it wasn't like the so-called big name guys moved. Was the price just more than you've ever seen at that point? Was the bullpen pieces, were they moving more than any starting pitchers? What was your take on what went down at the trade deadline?
Yeah, I thought it was an unusual trade deadline in general. I think that the deadlines are changing a bit as with a new playoff system. This is more teams in the race and kind of fewer sellers, true sellers. And if you looked at it, I'm not sure a controllable starter moved at the deadline, and I think there's a reason. I think that the teams that are in the race were holding on to it. The teams on the periphery, so to speak, or the teams that kind of want to compete next year, just weren't willing to trade their controllable starters. And I said the day after the deadline, I say it now, like none of those guys changed hands, whether it was to the Cubs or anyone else, and that just kind of means the price was. I don't know if the price was too high, because ultimately those teams value those pitchers, but the price was at a level that no one was willing to meet, whether it's the Cubs or anyone else. And so I think that's, maybe indicative of the mix of sellers this year. Is also maybe indicative of the fact that there's just fewer teams that are very far from contention, I guess is probably the way I would say it. And I think that therefore there's kind of fewer rebuilds happening, and therefore teams are holding on to the players they control. So it was really a handful of rental starters. There wasn't a lot of talent on the starting market. And you can't force that kind of thing. I think that, yes, a deal like that, if you're forcing a controllable starter to be available, you can, blow a massive hole in your future in order to do that. I think that feels good, maybe on the day you do it, but ultimately, you look out on our field right now, and you guys are asking me right now why Owen Caisie's not playing. We're watching Matt Shaw's been playing really well. Pete's an MVP candidate. Cade Horton's been outstanding for a long time. Daniel Palencia has been closing for us. So you look at all these young players, like these are all the kind of players that get asked about in these trades. And so, the only way to win in today's game is with controllable young talent. And so, the idea of taking kind of four of those guys to go get, number 3 starter, it didn't make a lot of sense for the future of our team, especially given the way we're winning now, which is largely with a lot of these young players that are really helping us.
So, Jed, I think whenever we talk about you, it's been consistent. How well you manage perception is something that has been throughout your time with the Cubs has been one of your strengths in minds of many. So I think I have to wonder this. When you have Carter Hawkins, your general manager, who was quoted in an ESPN.com story saying that we have a responsibility to the 2025 Cubs, but also to the 2032 Cubs, it creates a lot of reaction among Cub fans, and it wasn't good. And I think that you're aware of that. How do you address that, let alone explain it?
Well, I think I just, in some ways, I just said a lot of what he said. I think that, the challenge of, it's just, you talk about dealing with perception. And I think that, the thing I say all the time, and will always say is, we have a responsibility to keep one eye on right now and an eye on the future. And you're always balancing how you handle that. Like every deadline, every winter, you're constantly battling that weight of now versus the future. And every team does that a little bit differently. Every team weighs future wins and present wins differently. And I guess the way I've tried to say it all the time is at every point, at different points, we've been asked about PCA and Cade Horton and Daniel Palencia and Matt Shaw in various trades, right? And we've chosen not to make those decisions, and those are benefiting us right now. I guess that's the way I would probably frame it, is that, there's always opportunity to trade future wins for now wins. That is always something that's available to you. And you have to constantly weigh that. Like, do I want to do this thing right now that makes us slightly better now, but is going to hurt us in the future? And I think that's what he was trying to allude to, is that those possibilities or those opportunities exist all the time. And, we are always weighing. It's no different than a NFL team with draft picks or NBA team with draft picks, right? You can always go get a superstar by trading 4 first-round draft picks. I think it feels good in the moment, but you have to realize, okay, there's a price to be paid for that. And prospects are effectively the first-round draft pick of an NFL team or an NBA team. And then we're constantly weighing that element. How do you balance, building a team for now versus knowing that we have to build a good team in 2026 and 2027. And that's the expectation here, is that we're going to be a competitive, good team every year. I don't think there's a desire for a big boom and bust cycle here. And therefore that's the focus, is how do we build something that's consistent?
Jed, congratulations on your new contract extension. I know that's something that was well earned. In retrospect, do you regret the timing of the announcement? I mean, it came before the trade deadline. It just causes various speculation. It as I said, it's well earned, and we look forward to the future. But was the timing of that off a little?
We've been talking about it for quite a while. There's been a long discussion, and it sort of got done right around then. And so, listen, I think you guys know me. Like, I wish it was never announced in the first place. I look at these things. The last thing I want is my name in the media, in the press. Like, it's a player's game. The focus should be on Craig and on the players. And I don't like people talking about my employment status. I didn't like the speculation all year. I think that's uncomfortable talking about that. I don't have a problem talking about moves and decisions, but ultimately, like I said, this is a player's game. It shouldn't be focused on the executive. So I would have rather, never even was a story. But I don't think that having it come out, it wasn't ideal timing, because it led to speculation. As I've said a lot of times, listen, my focus is just on making good decisions for the Ricketts family and for Cubs fans, and trying to take myself out of the equation. So, nothing about the deal affected anything. We've been talking about it for a while, but I can see how people would look at it that way.
All right, enough about the future. Let's talk about the present.
Yeah.
So today is a big day, doubleheader, but we don't know who's starting game 2. I do wonder this, Jed. Can you tell us when Jameson Taillon might be used? Is he going to start game 2 tonight? And what is Luke Little doing at Wrigley Field?
Again, that's not my place to make announcements. But no, JMO has progressed really well. He's made a number of rehab starts, and he's close. And listen, I think there'll be this will be a week of a lot of roster moves. I think that, we're in a stretch now between, last Monday and next Monday, 14, we have, 14 days. We have 14 days without an off day, and we have a doubleheader. And so there's going to be a bunch of roster moves this week. There's certainly some. We'll be active, trying to make sure we have fresh arms, especially. So that'll be something we're constantly working on. And these doubleheaders, these stretches and no days off, they're challenging. For sure. I think that it's hard on the front office. It's hard on the manager, to think about, okay, how do I balance this? And I think that we're going to have to, pick and choose times to use certain guys because, this is an important series, but we also can't, you can't wear out the bullpen. You can't wear out your guys. We're going to have 34 games after this. So I do think that is really important. It's a hard week for everybody. The players have to play a lot of baseball, and we have to make a bunch of roster moves to make sure we're fresh.
Great stuff, Jed. Thanks a ton. Really appreciate your time as always.
Thanks so much, Jed.